Hello and welcome to another episode of Blurbal Reasoning, the show where I review books that I have read recently. Today, we are looking at The Clockwise Man by Justin Richards. When I first scouted the now controversial Audibles library for ideas of books to listen to, I pinpointed two genres, fantasy novels and franchise fiction. For the latter, I was immediately pulled to these collections of Doctor Who novels you could acquire for a single credit. The first of these is a collection of 3 Ninth Doctor adventures, including the subject of today's review, The Clockwise Man. Now, to preface, I have read 2 Doctor Who novels in my time, The Last Dodo and Sting of the Zygons. The former is as memorable to me as any episode, whilst the latter has receded into the mists of time. I fully intend to revisit these as part of my exploration of Doctor Who novels, but the important thing for now is to say that The Clockwise Man marks the first Doctor Who novel I've read in my adult life. So, on a scale of The Last Dodo to Sting of the Zygons, how memorable is The Clockwise Man? Well, I'd need a time machine and a paradox machine to interview my future self for that one. From the outset though, I feel like I've begun with one of his stronger novels. We'll get into the specifics in the spoiler section, but as an overview, I'll just say that Richards paints an easy to imagine 1920s London with a solid cast of characters, and a plot which, whilst not the craziest thing I've ever read, certainly provides a unique story which is easily worthy of being main show material, length and format compatibility notwithstanding. The audio version was read by Nicholas Briggs, notable amongst Doctor Who circles for being the voice of the Daleks, the Cybermen, and other assorted otherworldly beings. Here, he provides an excellent narration of the Clockwise Man, including different voices for all characters, making them easily recognisable throughout the story. You'll never mistake his Ninth Doctor for Christopher Eccleston, but he manages to capture the inflections and nuances with near perfection, and whilst his conservative approximation of a northern accent results in a softer-speaking Ninth Doctor than one might expect, it's decent enough that you can remain safely immersed without being taken out of scenes. Similarly, whilst Briggs mercifully doesn't try to imitate the sound of Rose Tyler, he captures her voice beyond just repeating the dialogue on the page. Due to this, I'd recommend the audiobook experience over the novel by itself. Now, we're going to talk about the actual story next, which means that's the end of the spoiler-free zone. Thanks for joining us if you're leaving now. So yep, spoilers from this point on. Having read the blurb, I was a little concerned about the setting of this novel. We all have our preferences, and 1920s London had every possibility of boring the pants off me. I'm happy to report, however, that Justin Richards won me over. I was immediately drawn into this world, familiar, yet a century old. This was helped further by the revelation that Freddie was secretly the son of deposed Tsar Nicholas II, a period and area of history which I enjoyed studying during my A-levels. But besides that, the novel was seasoned with enough expository detail to make me feel like I really was adventuring through time. I was particularly intrigued by the Doctor's mentioning of the flu of 1918, which killed more people than the Great War. Having witnessed our own once-a-century pandemic event, I wonder if this might have been written with even more significance in 2023. Still, it was a fun recontextualization of history that we don't normally get taught in schools. Getting back to our characters though, deposed rulers seem to be something of a theme. Repel, presented first as a deposed ruler of a forgotten nation, then as a mentally unstable man with delusions of grandeur, then as an exiled deposed alien ruler of many crimes, then finally as a clockwork stand-in with a serious identity crisis, was easily my standout favourite character of a novel. He's clearly the parallel of Freddie, one being surprised to find themselves the prince of a nation which disowned them, the other being surprised to find themselves not the emperor of a nation which overthrew them. Both find themselves becoming heroes, individually of their origins, which was, neat. I also enjoyed Wise, the actual deposed alien ruler, despite him receding into a fairly two-dimensional moustache-twirling villain of the week by the end. When Repel was initially revealed to be Shade Vasily, the aforementioned alien dictator, I was excited to spend some time with this idea of a deposed dictator with a conscience, so I'm a little disappointed we didn't spend more time with that idea. That being said, whenever Wise was in a scene, undercover or not, something about him just entertained me throughout. I'm sure Nicholas Briggs's performance helped in that regard. One character I was not so enamoured with was the Painted Lady. The idea of her needing to wear her mask to fit in with 1920s London society was all she really had going for her. Unfortunately, she spends the first half of the story playing the villain through ignorance and then a sheer stubbornness when presented with the truth, and the second half being moderately useful, but doing nothing to redeem her villainous actions from earlier. Or at least very little. As the reader, our foreknowledge of the Doctor's innocence makes her seem idiotic for suspecting him, so her failure to believe him as innocent when presented with overwhelming evidence does not do her any favours. To top it off, whilst we learn about her motivations in hating Shade for his crimes, this is never explored in any great detail as Shade dies by way of flying clockwork cat, and Melissa, the Painted Lady, is never made to confront the ethical quandary of her vengeful crusade and the death it caused. I mean, there are a few lines about you weren't worth the deaths and all that, but it's not much. Can you tell I went off script there? I'd have much preferred we spend time humanizing Shade and making Melissa realize the damage she had done, though still ending with Shade trying to sacrifice lives to escape. It just, I'm always aiming for more grey moral areas in books these days. I suppose I do have to take into account, though, that this isn't exactly a fully fledged adult novel. This is going to be aimed at younger readers too. Not that the writing style ever really felt that way, but just in terms of the franchise is aimed at younger audiences as well as older. Speaking of cats, so what was with that? This novel had an abundance of clockwork cats being kicked, thrown, drowned, and in one scene that had me gaping in astonishment, slammed into a wall repeatedly by a terrified Rose Tyler. They talk. They shoot red lasers out of their eyes. If this had been made into a live-action episode, it would have made Doctor Who history as one of the most bizarre moments on the show, and there's been a few of them. I hope somebody somewhere has asked Justin Richards just what his opinions on cats are. Overall though, The Clockwise Man is an absolutely solid Ninth Doctor adventure, and will stand out in my memory as strongly as any episode. It's a promising start for my journey through the many, many Doctor Who novels in my future. And yes, I do plan to continue my exploration of Doctor Who novels directly after this one. Right then, truth be told, the first cut of this video was me rambling disorganized thoughts into my phone as I huffed and puffed my way up a big hill, but I thought you deserved better. Also, the audio was unusable and it was late at night, so I had to write my thoughts as a script instead of waking people up by talking into a microphone, but that's neither here nor there. I hope you enjoyed this review because it was far more effort than I originally intended to put into this Blurbal reasoning. End of script. No, but seriously though, I spent like an hour writing that script. So that sets a dangerous precedent going forwards if people like the scripted versions of these videos. But I don't know, I feel like when I do my normal types of Blurbal reasonings, my thoughts are a lot more rambling and disorganized, and it's nice to actually be able to put pen to paper first, where I can, stop and delete sentences and reorganize bits and bobs and then actually talk about it into a microphone without sounding like, I've got ADHD, which I probably do. We're still waiting on the results. Anyway, as I've already mentioned, thank you for listening to this episode of Blurbal Reasoning. I hope this satisfied some of the people who may have subscribed to my channel for Doctor Who content since I stopped doing the classic Doctor Who. I hope this has also satisfied some people who subscribe to this channel for book review content via Blurbal Reasoning videos. Of course, I am still on hiatus from the Wheel of Time series, because I was going to lose my mind. I definitely hit that mid-series wall of stuff not being very interesting for free books that people talk about, but anyway, I will get back to it at some point. For now, we're on a Doctor Who adventure vacation. These books don't take too long to get through. This one took me a little over a week, and that was only because I have a very spontaneous schedule in terms of actually reading, so that's why that was. But, come back here soon for some more. Hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Bye.